Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling a huge number, 55 million.
55 million.
Yeah, that's roughly how many people worldwide hold a valid U.S. visa right now. And it's more than just a statistic, isn't it?
Absolutely. It represents millions of individual lives, their plans, their futures.
And all potentially impacted by a really sweeping new initiative from the Trump administration. We're talking about a major immigration crackdown, specifically this massive expansion of continuous vetting.
That's the term they're using.
Right. So for this deep dive, we've looked at news reports, economic analyses, human rights perspectives, even, what people are saying on forums like Reddit.
A real mix of sources.
Definitely. Our goal here is to unpack these policies, look at the potential impacts on industries, on people, and figure out what it all means for you, for everyone.
Okay.
So let's get into it. This idea of continuous vetting, it's central. What exactly does that mean on the ground?
Well, continuous vetting is pretty much what it sounds like. It's an ongoing sort of perpetual review of eligibility.
For everyone.
Essentially, yes. All foreign nationals who currently hold a valid U.S. visa. So that's tourists, students, workers, business travelers, you name it.
And this isn't just when they apply.
No, that's the key thing. It applies even if they've already been lawfully admitted and are living or staying inside the U.S.
Wow. Okay, so it's a constant look over the shoulder almost. What could trigger a visa revocation under this system?
The reasons are quite broad. Things like overstaying a visa, any criminal activity, obviously, but also perceived threats to public safety or engaging in any form of terrorist activity.
Okay, those seem somewhat standard if maybe applied more rigorously.
Right, but then there's also this category of holding anti-American views.
Anti-American views. That sounds potentially very subjective.
It does, and we know that initially there was a focus within that on things like pro-Palestinian or anti-Israel activities, particularly on college campuses.
How are they gathering the information for these ongoing reviews, especially for something as vague as anti-American views?
It's a very wide net they're casting for information. The State Department is reviewing, well, basically everything available.
Like what?
Law enforcement data, sure. Immigration records from the visa holder's home country. But also, significantly, social media activity.
Social media. So posts, likes.
Potentially. And facilitating this, there are new requirements, like having to disable privacy settings on your phone or laptop during visa interviews.
Seriously. Disable privacy settings.
That's what the reports indicate. And beyond that, the administration has also gained access to millions of immigrant tax records from the IRS. They're checking for any violations there, too.
That is an incredible amount of surveillance, really. And this isn't just theoretical, right? It's happening now.
Oh, yes, it's already having an impact. We know thousands of visas have already been revoked since the administration took office this year.
Thousands already.
Yes,
Yep.
including, in just recent months, over 6,000 student visas specifically.
6,000 students. Wow. What reasons are given?
The official reasons cited are often law violations or visa overstays, but in about 300 cases, the reason given was alleged support for terrorism. What's really striking is how experts are describing this. They're calling it one of the largest expansions of immigration enforcement in U.S. history.
One of the largest ever.
Yeah. And it's creating this huge cloud of uncertainty for millions of people, both inside the U.S. and abroad. Even someone with a valid tourist visa might suddenly find it questioned.
It's a lot to take in. Okay, so that's the big picture, this continuous vetting.
Right.
But there are also very specific policy changes hitting certain groups hard, right? Let's talk about commercial truck drivers.
Right. That's a really concrete example. The administration announced an immediate halt on issuing new work visas for foreign commercial truck drivers.
An immediate stop. Why?
Well, the public reasoning, voiced by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, is about protecting American lives and preventing, quote, undercutting American truckers.
So safety and jobs.
Exactly. They're linking it to road safety standards, and they've cited specific incidents where they claim limited English proficiency might have contributed to fatal accidents.
Okay. I think I saw reports mentioning a specific case involving a driver from India.
Yes, that case was highlighted, an Indian Sikh driver who reportedly entered illegally and was involved in an accident causing 3 deaths, allegedly after failing English and road sign tests.
So that's the administration's argument, but there must be another side to this economically.
Oh, definitely. Critics immediately jumped on this, pointing out that foreign truck drivers are actually crucial for filling labor shortages in the trucking industry.
Which is already stretched thin sometimes.
Precisely.
Yeah.
So the warning is that this could seriously mess with supply chains. We rely so much on trucking, and that could drive up costs for, well, pretty much everything.
Right. A classic tension there between security or protectionism and economic needs.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's shift to something incredibly personal for many families already here. The children of H-1B visa holders. There's been a major policy reversal affecting them, hasn't there?
Yes, this is a really significant one, and potentially heartbreaking for many. It involves something called the Child Status Protection Act, or CSPA.
CSPA, right? What did that do?
So the Biden administration had updated the CSPA policy back in February 2023. The goal was to protect kids who are dependents on their parents' H-1B visas from aging out.
Aging out meaning turning 21.
Exactly. Turning 21 before their parents' green card process is finished. If that happens, they lose their dependent status. The Biden update basically locked in their age for eligibility purposes much earlier in the process, using what's called the dates for filing chart. It was a safety net against long backlogs.
Okay, so it protected kids caught in bureaucratic delays. What's changed?
Well, that protection is being rolled back. The Trump administration has told USCIS, effective August 15, 2025, to revert to the older, stricter interpretation.
And what does that mean practically?
It means a child's age for CSPA purposes will now only be locked in when a visa number is actually available according to the final action date. That date can often be months or even years later than the dates for filing date.
So the window of protection just got much, much smaller.
Dramatically smaller. This hugely increases the risk, especially for kids from countries with massive green card backlogs like India, that they'll turn 21 before their place in line comes up.
And if they age out?
They lose their H-4 dependent status. They're suddenly in a precarious position. They either have to find another visa category fast, like switching to an F1 student visa if eligible, or they have to leave the United States.
Oh my goodness. For kids who've likely grown up here.
Exactly. They could lose eligibility for in-state tuition, lose scholarships, have their education completely disrupted. It's a massive source of anxiety for these families.
I can only imagine. That's devastating. Okay, beyond truck drivers and H-1B kids, Human Rights Watch has documented a whole raft of other policy changes related to immigration and refugees. It sounds quite comprehensive.
It really is. Human Rights Watch outlines a broad tightening across almost every aspect of immigration and refugee policy. You could sort of group them.
Okay, what are the main themes?
Well, first, there's a really dramatic hardening of border controls. We're talking about declaring an invasion, sealing the border, and explicitly trying to bar the right to seek asylum if you're on U.S. soil.
Just blocking asylum claims entirely.
That seems to be the intent expressed. Plus, resuming controversial policies like remain in Mexico, forcing asylum seekers to wait south of the border, or safe third country deals to deport them elsewhere.
Okay, so pushbacks and externalizing the border. What about inside the U.S.?
That's the second big theme. A major expansion of domestic enforcement, calls for mandatory detention for anyone suspected of violating federal or state law.
Suspected, not convicted.
Correct. And ending alternatives to detention, even ones like the Family Case Management Program that had really high compliance rates, like 99%.
What else on domestic enforcement?
Expanding the power of state and local police to act as immigration officers, the 287G program. Cutting federal funds to so-called sanctuary jurisdictions, and significantly, getting rid of the policy that barred ICE raids at sensitive locations.
Sensitive locations like schools, places of worship, hospitals.
Exactly. Those places could potentially become sites for immigration enforcement actions again. There's also talk of using the military, deploying troops to the border, potentially using Guantanamo Bay for migrant detention, and military flights for deportations.
Military involvement. Wow, that's a significant escalation.
It is, and expanding expedited removal nationwide, meaning non-citizens caught anywhere in the U.S. could be deported quickly without full court proceedings if they can't prove they've been here continuously for 2 years. It strips away a lot of due process.
Okay, border hardening, domestic enforcement ramp up. What's the third theme?
The third is a severe rollback of humanitarian programs and protections. Things like ending the parole programs for Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, Venezuelans, canceling temporary protected status, TPS, for over 300,000 Venezuelans, and casting doubt on TPS for other nationalities, too.
So taking away temporary protections for people fleeing crisis.
Essentially, yes. Also shutting down the CBP One app, which many asylum seekers use to schedule appointments, and closing the safe mobility offices that were set up abroad.
And refugees, the formal resettlement program.
That's probably one of the most startling changes outlined, an indefinite halt to the entire U.S. refugee admissions program.
A whole program. Indefinitely.
Yes, a program that's been running basically since the Vietnam War era, with one very specific reported exception being made for white Afrikaners from South Africa.
Just that one group.
That's what Human Rights Watch reported as the administration's stated exception. There are also plans to try and end birthright citizenship for children born in the U.S. to undocumented parents, though that faces obvious constitutional hurdles. And even suspending U.S. development and humanitarian aid worldwide for 90 days.
Suspending global aid. The scale of these proposed changes is just immense. Which brings us to the cost. All this enforcement, deportation, detention.
Yeah.
It can't be cheap.
Not even close. The administration is actually asking Congress for what they've termed a $168 billion big, beautiful bill specifically for immigration enforcement.
$168 billion.
Yes, and within that, $75 billion is specifically targeted for expanding ICE detention and deportation operations. It's a massive investment in enforcement infrastructure.
But that's just the government spending side. What about the cost to the economy if millions are removed?
Yes, that's where the numbers get truly staggering. While the administration asks for $168 billion, analyses suggest the actual fiscal cost that hit to the economy could be far, far greater.
How much greater?
Well, the Libertarian Cato Institute, for example, did an analysis. They estimate that the policies enabling mass removals could impose a fiscal cost of around $886 billion over the next decade.
$886 billion. Almost $1 trillion. Where does that number come from?
It largely comes from the economic contributions lost when you remove millions of workers and consumers from the economy. Think about key industries.
Like construction, agriculture.
Exactly. Manufacturing, agriculture, construction, hospitality, they all rely heavily on immigrant labor, including undocumented workers. 14% of construction workers are undocumented, for instance, and that industry already needs nearly 500,000 more workers this year.
So removing workers makes existing shortages even worse.
Much worse. In agriculture, immigrants are about 1 in 8 workers, mass deportations there. Experts warn it could lead to severe labor shortages, which means
Higher food prices.
yes, potentially pushing overall inflation up by as much as 9%, according to some estimates. Same story in hospitality. 1 in 14 workers, a quarter of cleaners, are undocumented migrants. Disruptions and higher costs would follow.
It really highlights how interconnected everything is.
Yeah.
What about the bigger economic picture? Immigrants' overall contribution.
It's substantial. Immigrants, both legal and undocumented, were responsible for about 1/5 of the country's real GDP growth since 2019.
1/5 of GDP growth.
Yeah. In 2023 alone, they added about $4.6 billion in consumer spending, $48 billion in personal income. Look at the labor force. Without immigrants, it would have actually shrunk by 1.2 million people between 2019 and 2023.
So they're preventing labor force decline.
Absolutely. And they pay taxes, too. Undocumented immigrants alone paid an estimated $96.7 billion in federal, state, and local taxes in 2022.
Wow. Including Social Security and Medicare.
Yep. About $25.7 billion to Social Security, $6.4 billion to Medicare, $1.8 billion to unemployment insurance, even though they often can't access those benefits themselves. Certain states see huge contributions. California got $8.5 billion in taxes from them in 2022. Texas, $4.9 billion. New York, $3.1 billion. Florida, $1.8 billion.
So the economic fallout from mass removals could be huge.
The consensus among economists studying this is yes. Depending on the scale, the U.S. economy could shrink by anywhere from 1.2% to potentially as much as 7.4% by 2028. That's a massive hit.
Okay, the economic stakes are clearly enormous. What about people's reactions? We looked at Reddit forums and other sources. How are folks responding to all this?
Well, as you might expect, the reactions are really diverse and often quite strong. There's definitely skepticism about the big 55 million number itself.
Doubting the figure.
Yeah, or questioning how feasible it is to actually vet that many people continuously. There are worries it's a recipe for lots of false positives, or that it will end up targeting people for minor stuff.
Okay, concerns about practicality and fairness. What else?
A lot of anxiety about the economic impact we just discussed. People commenting that these policies could, blow up their own economy, or that talented people, major institutions might just decide to flock elsewhere.
A brain drain fear.
Exactly. Also, specific concerns about using things like Gen AI in the vetting process, worries about bias and accuracy there.
That's interesting. AI in vetting raises red flags for people.
It seems so. And then there are deeper fears about the scope creeping further.
What do you mean?
People wondering if this could eventually extend to green card holders, lawful permanent residents, or even U.S.-born citizens whose parents might be immigrants. One person shared worry about their friends' parents, permanent residents from Iran, who are critical of the administration.
So a fear that the definition of who needs vetting could expand.
Yeah, a real sense of who's next.
Mm.
And some practical concerns, too, like what happens with big international events like the World Cup. Will potential visitors be too scared to come if they fear detention or deportation?
That's a good point. And I imagine there were strongly political takes, too.
Oh, absolutely. Lots of highly charged comments, both condemning the policies fiercely and others linking them to, various geopolitical theories or expressing strong support. It really tapped into intense feelings across the political spectrum.
Looking at that whole range of reactions, skepticism, economic fear, personal anxiety, political heat, what's the main takeaway for you? What feeling really comes through?
I think what really stands out is the profound sense of uncertainty and, frankly, anxiety. It's
Right.
not just about laws or economics in the abstract.
Right.
It's about the very real, deeply personal impact on individuals and families. The comments show just how widely a policy shift like this ripples out, generating concern about everything from, national economic health right down to personal safety, individual rights, and how the U.S. is perceived on the world stage. It's all interconnected.
What a journey this has been. We really tried to unpack this continuous vetting of 55 million visa holders. We looked at the specific changes, like for H-1B kids and truck drivers. We dug into the huge economic costs and the potential impact on jobs and industries.
And the human rights concerns, the public reactions.
Exactly. And the wide range of reactions, from sort of practical skepticism to really deep personal fears.
It's complex.
It really is. This whole deep dive just shows this intense interplay, doesn't it? Between goals like national security, the hard facts of economic reality, and then just the human lives caught in the middle of it all.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
So as we finish up, maybe here's something for all of us, for you listening, to think about.